All right, welcome. Today, we're going to dive into an idea that is, well, pretty counterintuitive. We'll be looking at it through a set of really simple but powerful parables. And at the heart of it all is this one beautiful image, the empty vessel. It's a story that's going to challenge what we think we know about pride, about purpose, and what it really means to be fulfilled.
So let me just ask you this right at the start. It sounds like a no-brainer, right? Of course it's better to be full. We all want our lives to be full of experiences, success, love. But these parables, they're going to flip that idea on its head and ask us to think about the hidden power of being empty.
Okay, so our story kicks off with the problem of being full, but, full of all the wrong things. Let's meet our first character.
So picture this. A master craftsman creates this absolutely perfect pot. It's a masterpiece, a real work of art. But instead of letting it do its job, to hold water for someone who's thirsty, he turns it into a trophy, a monument to his own talent. He fills it with this super expensive oil and just sticks it up on a shelf, totally sealing it off from the world.
And this is where it gets really interesting. The potter starts going on about his great sacrifice, this big spiritual renunciation he's made. But you gotta listen to the words he's actually saying. I am better than you. See? His so-called virtue has nothing to do with helping anyone. It's all a performance, staged for one reason, to make himself look good.
But the Nazarene, he sees right through the whole act. He looks at it and sees the truth. That beautiful pot has become totally useless. That precious oil, locked away from everyone, has literally gone bad. The vessel is full, yeah, but it's full of the potter's pride. It's completely stagnant, and in the end, spiritually empty.
Now, this problem of being full of vanity isn't just about one person. This kind of thing can scale up. It can infect entire cultures, entire societies. So this next parable takes the same idea and expands it from one potter to two whole cities.
So you've got two kinds of pride on display here. First, there's the city on the hill, the city of noble deeds. They're super proud of their family history, their past glory, but they're kind of fading. Then, down in the valley, you have the city of commerce, buzzing with wealth, where people are literally trying to buy the status that the first city is losing. Both are totally convinced they're the best, but you know what? They're both spiritually barren.
Wow, what an image. The Nazarene basically holds up a dead branch covered in mud and decorated with jewels. He's saying that the merchants believe all these external things, the wealth, the fancy titles, having the perfect image make them noble. But it's just a mask. It's a disguise. Underneath all that glitter, the branch is still withered. It's lifeless.
And this is the core of it. Both cities are making the exact same mistake as that first proud potter. They're obsessed with the outside, their family tree, their bank account, their reputation. They completely neglect the inner work, actually cultivating their own being. They are so full of their own story that there is zero room for any real growth.
Okay, so if being full of pride is the disease, then what's the cure? Well, let me tell you, it's not a quick fix. The process of emptying yourself is a real, active, and often pretty painful spiritual battle.
And to really kick this transformation into gear, we get hit with this just terrifying thought experiment. It's called the greatest weight. Imagine for a second that you're told you have to relive your exact life, every mistake, every boring moment, everything, over and over again, forever. Would that be a blessing or a curse? For most people, that thought is absolutely crushing.
That greatest weight forces you into a three-stage transformation. First, you're the camel, just carrying the burden of your own unfulfilling life. That weight brings you to your knees. Then you have to become the lion, who just furiously rejects that life. It roars a holy no to all the old values that made life so mediocre. But just destroying things isn't enough. Finally, you have to become the child, innocent, creative, ready to build a new life from scratch with a joyful, holy yes.
This whole journey is described as a convalescence, like you're recovering from a really long illness. And the key insight here is that real strength isn't about never getting sick in the first place. It's about facing that sickness head-on, the vanity, the mediocrity, and finding a new, deeper kind of health on the other side of that crisis.
So, we've seen this painful struggle of emptying yourself out. But what does the result actually look like? What's the point of it all? Let's go back to our original story to find out.
So the Nazarene introduces a second potter, and this guy couldn't be more different from the first one. He doesn't have any magnificent pots, no grand displays. His vessels are simple, humble, and they're made for one thing and one thing only, to be useful.
And here it is. This is the secret. This is the core of the entire explainer. The humble potter's genius isn't in what he fills his pots with. It's his commitment to keeping them empty. By emptying them of his own ego, his ambition, he leaves them open, ready to receive a true blessing, the life-giving rain. This slide just lays out the two paths so clearly. The proud potter's renunciation was really an act of closing himself off from the world. It was all a performance. The humble potter's renunciation, on the other hand, was an act of opening up. One vessel becomes stagnant, full of rancid, useless oil. The other becomes a channel for life itself.
So what's the ultimate result of all this humble emptying? What actually happens when you become a truly open vessel?
The final lesson is this. This isn't about becoming nothing. By emptying yourself of all that junk, the pride, the vanity, the need to perform, you don't just become empty. You create the space to be filled with something far greater, a living spirit. You stop being a stagnant pond and you become a wellspring, a source of life for everyone you meet.
This state of being a wellspring even opens up a totally new way to relate to people, something called star friendship. It's a connection between two people who are already whole, like two suns shining with their own light. They don't need to suck the life out of each other for warmth or validation. Their friendship is based on mutual strength and deep respect for each other's own journey.
And that brings us to the final question, which we'll leave with you. It ties that potter's vessel right back to that greatest weight we talked about. If you had to live your life on a loop for all of eternity, what would you need to pour out? What pride, what fear, what old habits would you have to get rid of to make room for a life that you could affirm with a joyful, powerful yes? Definitely something worth thinking about.